In November, the USA will go to presidential elections. It's Donald Trump, a former president, versus Joe Biden, the current president. Both have very different ideas when it comes to how to resolve the Russian and Ukraine conflict, and how that election turns out will potentially carve out Ukraine's fate. Joe Biden has promised more of the same: defense, weapons, and more money. Joe Biden has been clear that Ukrainian security is important to the USA's security. Defenders of Joe Biden claim that if Russia was able to take Ukraine, then it would be emboldened and more confident in taking other states, potentially a NATO state. That would mean that America could be dragged into a global conflict, something we don't want, says Joe Biden. Joe Biden's plan also enables America to help keep Russia down without putting a single American boot on Ukrainian soil. While America does donate billions to Ukraine, it actually amounts to less than 7% of the defense budget for America. Nothing lost particularly. But critics of Joe Biden will argue that Biden is merely prolonging the bloodshed, that Ukraine cannot win the war, and that by funding Ukraine's defense, it is only causing more suffering and more misery. Critics are mostly of the isolationist type in America that will argue this is not America's war. Enter Donald Trump, who will be trying to appease the isolationists in his party. He has a different response. It's close to Donald Trump claims that the plan will be to force Ukraine and Russia into a peace plan. But how will you do this? How will you get Russia and Ukraine to sit at the table? In typical Trump fashion, we'll threaten them. Donald Trump's aides claim that Trump will tell Ukraine, if you don't go, we'll stop giving you weapons and Russia will flatten you. But at the same time, he'll say to Russia, if you don't go to the peace talks, we'll give Ukraine more weapons. There is also talks of Trump appeasing Putin by saying, don't worry, we won't let Ukraine into NATO. One of Putin's big talking points, something Putin has been talking about for a very long time. Defenders of the Trump argument will once again say this is not our war and Trump is putting an end to it. Trump's defenders will also argue that by putting Zelensky and Putin at the peace plan table, it'll end a conflict that has gone on for years and one that threatens to go on for even longer. But critics will argue this is merely appeasing Russia. It'll be saying to Vladimir Putin that despite years of saying that America will defend Ukraine, America gets quite bored. It'll also send a message to America's other rivals, such as China and Iran, that while America can blitz in the money and the weapons at the start, if you just hold out for a few years, America will eventually step aside. Also, does America really have a right to say to Ukraine, give up your land? Ukraine were already forced to pretty much lose Crimea due to appeasement in 2014. Could Ukraine lose more of the East because America gets bored? These are questions that both Trump and Biden, whoever wins the election, will have to face after November. There is talk amongst some Democrats that Biden would not stand for the election, but if he were to step aside, his likely replacement would be his Vice President, Kamala Harris, who is very likely to echo the President and the Democrats' current lines on Ukraine. It therefore means that there are pretty much two solutions for Ukraine's conflict after November, both with positives and minuses. It seems one thing is guaranteed though: Ukraine may not get much of a say in that result.